When I was a kid, I used to look out the window of my elementary school classroom and see all the cars driving by on Farmersville Road. Farmersville Road, you see, was the road that connects the two nearest towns where I grew up to one another. And so to me, it seemed basically that to get any place in the whole wide world from that elementary school classroom, you first had to turn one way or another down Farmersville Road. Even given that, the fact that it was a gateway to the whole wide world, there were not so many cars traveling down Farmersville Road in Posey County, Indiana on the middle of a Monday in the 80s. There were just enough to keep me curious and keep me occupied. And one of my clearest memories from that time of my life was watching those cars drive by and thinking how awesome it would be to be a grown-up. To be a grown-up in one of those cars and be free to go wherever you want and drive around whenever you want and just hit Farmersville Road and let it take you on adventures like fancy lunches with your friends or the grocery store at 2 p.m. I was, I'm sure, supposed to be paying attention to my teachers, but I thought a lot in those days about all those people in all those cars and what exactly it was they were all up to. I imagined they were doing really cool things. I imagined their lives had truly begun, I mean really, really begun, when they were out there with a job and a car, like people in movies with dreams. I imagined all those people on their way to one place or another were really living, and I thought someday if I played my cards right, I could really live too. Fast forward 15 years, I remember being in seminary, having technically been a grown-up and justly endowed with the freedom of driver's license for quite some time. I remember poring over my books, eating ramen noodles for lunch, and thinking that life would really start. I mean, really, really start once I graduated and found my way into a parish like this one, among all of you. It was out here in the churches, not in the seminary, that people were really living and doing cool things like having fancy lunches and hanging out with their friends and going to meetings. And I thought in those days that if I played my cards right, that I could really live too, like all of you out here in the world, doing the work, living your dreams on your way to something real. And I knew then, and I know now, that others have leafed through bridal magazines or studied china patterns or picked out baby bunting or daydreamed through another workday, thinking for all the world that life must really start. I mean really, really start at that unnameable point in the future when they will get married, when you will have a baby, when you will finally finalize that divorce, when the meds will all get straightened out, when the chemo will be over, when the kids will go off to college, or retirement finally comes, or justice is finally served, or that man is finally out of office, or the kitchen remodel is finally completed, or that long yearned for vacation is finally taken. Then, when all of this happens, or all of that happens, when this yearning is met or that one is fulfilled, then it really starts. I mean, then it really starts, man. Not this waiting, but that living of which we imagine other people are doing and which we yearn so deeply for. The real living must start at some point. Not all of this getting there, but the being there. Not the journey, but the destination. And sometimes I wonder if we are all just sitting there in our proverbial classrooms, pencils in hand, ignoring the teacher while we watch the cars go by outside our windows and think to ourselves that everyone else, everyone but us, is on their way to something real while we just wait for the whole thing to start. Yearning for something. Something over the rainbow, something out beyond our grasp, just waiting for the unattainable horizon to come at long last close at hand. Somewhere over the rainbow, it'll all be okay. Somewhere down the other side of Farmersville Road, it'll all be exciting. Somewhere beyond this place and time, out there lays life and love and the beginning of all things new. Dorothy is not the only one who yearns for a faraway place, far from the dust and the muck and the doldrums of Kansas. Somewhere over the rainbow, there are bluebirds. Like the drivers on my country road, they can go where they please, when they please, freed from the confines of this earth. Theirs is adventure and freedom and a different future, a life unconstrained. But like myself in elementary school, Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz is just a kid, and her dreams are the dreams of childhood. In childhood, from what I remember, life almost always feels like it's waiting to start. But yearning for a faraway place is not the purview of children alone. It is a part of our own nature, to dream of other things, to envision other worlds and other days and other lives that we might live. But there is, in fact, only one life we are living. And it just so happens to be played out not in the winter we have passed, nor the spring that yet beckons, but right here in the middle point. Life always happens in the middle, in this minute, and no amount of dreaming it away can make it any less real or, frankly, any less beautiful. Human beings are storytelling creatures, and the narrative we've constructed for what we dream of can be striking. The baker may have dreamed of being a dancer. The dancer wishes she could paint. The lawyer sits at her desk daydreaming of chopping wood, and the construction worker wishes just once he could put his beloafered feet up on a shiny desk and waste a whole afternoon on email. We all have plans, or at least visions of what life might be like for other people or other versions of ourselves. With our own hard work and commitment, sometimes life brings those visions to pass, and sometimes the dreams that we dare to dream really do come true, and sometimes life happens when we are busy making those other plans. Sometimes, I might add, we are so busy looking so far forward or so far backward at what we wish we were or what we once had been that we can't recognize the significance of our life and our times, even right now, as we live them in this moment. English author Zadie Smith put it so well when she said, "I find in these days that a wistful form of time travel has become a persistent political theme in our country, both on the right and on the left." She reminded us that just before the votes were cast in the 2016 election, 70% of Republicans stated that they would prefer America as it was in the 1950s. So one form of popular political time travel that is appealing to privileged people is regressive, reaching back into another age of pinafores and shirtwaist dresses and a genteel racism that was so polite in the face of terror. But to progressives in the modernist era and beyond, so often the penchant for time travel goes in the other direction. 200 years of progressive hopefulness have taught us that history is on the march. It all goes forward, and history, especially American history, is all but inevitably one of progress if we hang on for the ride. The right travels in time backward, imagining Beaver Cleaver. The left time travels forward, imagining the great society just over the horizon. And in the middle of all of this wistful time traveling, there are our actual lives and our actual choices. In the middle of it all, there is our lived experience of hurt and hope. There, in the middle of all of our yearning for a faraway place, either behind us or ahead of us, is this place, waiting for our recognition of each other's preciousness, our acknowledgement of our own powerful choices. All of the mundane miracles of life are happening around us as we speak, and the change we can make can only be made right now. There is much to be said for yearning for a faraway place. There is not a whole lot we can do to stop this yearning in ourselves. But we must also find a way to live the life we are actually living, this one with these people, these miracles of the mundane everyday that call out to us right now. Ralph Waldo Emerson is one of the late greats of our tradition. And one of his biographers said that when he thought on Emerson's experience of life, his willingness to suck the beauty and the glory out of every moment, he said that Emerson had an almost intolerable awareness that every morning began with infinite promise. Any book might be read, any idea thought, any action taken. Anything that has ever been possible in human history is possible to most of us every time the clock says it is 6 a.m. On a day no different than the one now breaking, Shakespeare sat down to begin Hamlet. Each of us has all the time there is. Each accepts the invitations we can discern for ourselves. And each evening brings a reckoning of infinite regret for the paths refused, the openings not seen, the actions not taken. Every day, not yesterday, not tomorrow, but every day we are given has within itself the potential to reveal wonders. Every place, not just the grand and distant ones, but this one has the power to be holy ground from this spot on which we stand. Not on that place over the rainbow or down a country road, but this place may arise all the sources of meaning we will need. From this place and in this time, an invitation to live more richly might be waiting for you, even if you never see what lies on the other side of the horizon. You will remember, of course, that at the end of the journey, when Dorothy has traveled as far as her imagination can take her, when she has lived an adventure for the ages not even the bluebirds in all their freedom could dream up, in the end there is no place like home. No matter how you yearned and may still yearn to leave it, no matter where you think you ought to be or what kind of life you thought you deserved, in the end, the tapping of those ruby slippers is not for a fantasy or a faraway place, but for this place, with all of its dust and glory, with its lack of glitter and its shining new morning. This place, your life, holy ground from which arises meaning and truth and significance. This place. There is no place like home.